Hello and welcome back. My name is ShaaWn, aka Saturi Babamoto, your host. You're listening to the Grow Up podcast, the podcast where we talk through the crypto market updates together with technical and fundamental analysis to find out what's going on in this wonderful world of crypto. But today we are having something different. And now it's time to welcome our special guest, the cryptoJamie, aka Mr. Let's Go, the co-founder of Crypto Bros UK. Mr. Jamie, welcome to our
Hi,
podcast.
ShaaWn. Thank you so much for having me. That's a tremendous, introduction. So I appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you here.
Okay,
let's start with the questions. Tell us more about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, no problem. So obviously everybody, as you know, in the name cryptoJamie, my name is Jamie. I trade cryptocurrency. I make crypto content online, mainly on TikTok, and I do podcasts on Spotify too. The emphasis is all around educating people and removing barriers. So my story is very different to most other creators and most other people within the space, I would imagine. So my kind of output is, and my main goal is, free education for people. Nobody should have to pay for any form of education when it comes to cryptocurrency. There's tons of free resources. So I think it's just opening people's eyes to exactly how to access them and where they are.
Yeah, that's really nice. And when was the first time you heard about the Bitcoin?
Yeah, so the first time I heard about Bitcoin, I was about 19 years of age, and my life was a lot different then. I was actually just leaving college, I believe, at that time. I was thinking about investing and talking about investing in it, and I got put off it by a family member, and that family member maybe just kind of made me question, no, it's not a good idea. And then it's just something that ever since I've not really got regrets around cryptocurrency and around anything like that. But I've always looked back at that moment kind of like as a what if. And you never know. You can never say, oh, if I'd have bought Bitcoin and put £4,000 or £5,000 into it back then, I'd be on a yacht somewhere and, not have anybody around me that I've got around me now. And you can't think like that. But the first time that I truly heard about Bitcoin was 19 years of age. Clearly, it was very new then. Right now, I'm 30 years of age. And a lot of people probably may or may not know my story. It's a little bit different. So 11 years ago, it's a bit different. It was a little bit out there. Clearly, we know where Bitcoin was, but I decided against investing at the time. I think probably it would be quite useful to talk a little bit about my journey as well up to now. So, because I know we've missed that in the first question. So I'll just cover that. So I'm actually 30 years of age. I'm from Warrington, which is a small town in the northwest of England. So it's based in between Manchester and Liverpool. And I've been trading full-time pretty much for around 12 months. I was lucky and I was in a position that I could quit full-time work. And that job, I've always done the same job. I actually worked in a sport called rugby league. And that is a big sport in the north of England and a little bit in France as well and Australia. And I was working at professional sports clubs for over 11 years as a performance analyst. Now, my route out of that was simply cryptocurrency. When lockdown hit, it was a little bit of a bummer, really. Everyone was on. I was actually working two jobs, and not many people know this at the time because, it's tough. Life is tough. There's bills to pay, and even sport doesn't pay too well, especially in the UK, which is not great. So I was working for two different clubs. I was actually working for a football club, a Premier League football club. You might have heard of them, Manchester City Football Club, so a big name, and also working for Widnes Vikings as a performance analyst. So back then things were good, but yet the money still wasn't 100% great for where we needed to be. So I had to. There was a need for me to provide for me and my family to work two jobs. Now, when lockdown hit, the second job at Widnes Vikings, there was no people able to attend games. All of a sudden, the money kind of dried up, and that was it. And for me, it was a little bit of oh gosh, what next? And I was lucky because at that time I was gifted some shares, and those shares were worth £200. So automatically, I put them straight into an airline blindly. Wow. I did not have a clue what to do with them. I put them in and it went up to £250. So I went and spoke to Mrs. cryptoJamie. I was like, listen, crypto is the future. Crypto has got all these exciting things on. I was scrolling through Twitter, Facebook, everything I was seeing was about crypto. I don't know whether this was a sign or something that I needed to get involved in it. And I said to her, listen, I know we've not got an awful lot of money at the moment, but I want to put some money into crypto. And she replied and she went, Jamie, the money you got from your shares, withdraw it and put it into cryptocurrency. At the time, it was £252. I took it out and I put it straight into cryptocurrency, and the rest is history. And a lot of people don't know that £252 at one point went down to literally £60. So we managed to build it all the way up from £60 all the way up to what we're at now.
Wow, this is amazing. This is, yeah. I mean, actually, you. I think you already answered my third question as well. Within this question, I was about to ask, what was your feeling and your initial impressions about crypto and Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on that a little bit more because, people know this. My dad is from Egypt, my mum is from England. So being aware of currency and its impact and how it can just change. So when I was a kid and when I went to Egypt, like the Egyptian pound to the English pound was very different to what it is now. And I know it's exactly the same in Turkey because I spent a lot of time there earlier this year. I mean, the Turkish lira has been massively effective over the last few years as a conversion rate to the pound, and even more recently, the pound to the dollar. And I'm kind of thinking, is this right? Somebody somewhere has got the ability to print as much money as they want, and who pays for that? And ultimately, that's us through rates of inflation. Now, if we're buying something that's limited, such as Bitcoin, for example, it's got to be sustainable. It can never rise to an amount that's not affordable. There's many more questions that can be asked around society, its core values, its morals. At the moment, money printers are currently on in the UK, they're currently on all the way around the world, and it's quite frankly scary. Who's going to pay for this at the end of the day? And at the end of the day, it's not the ultra rich, it's not the people with a little bit of money, it's the working people that are struggling or they're just getting by, and they're the people hit by that the most. And that for me is something that really opened my eyes and really made me think, do you know what? Cryptocurrency in its rawest form, and its rawest form for me is opening barriers, removing those from out of the way. The best example for that is there's more cryptocurrency users in Africa than there is people with bank accounts, which is just crazy statistic. And the reason for that is because it's free. It's absolutely free of use. You don't need to provide all your information to enter cryptocurrency world. You don't need a KYC and things like that, because actually that's a huge barrier for many people, and people don't realize that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I got to know a new project last week, and I was trying to learn more about the project, and I was trying to find their I don't know if they have any channel in Telegram or somewhere. You won't believe, I found a group, and it was almost 20,000 people from Africa, and I was oh my god. I mean,
it's crazy.
Imagine.
And it's crazy in a good way, because we think about underdeveloped financial regions, and I mean this in the most respectful way. In many aspects, I actually think that Europe is one of the most underdeveloped financial, and we'll probably touch on that a little bit later on. But in terms of ease and accessibility of use and the doors that it's opening, you go to Dubai, more than 60% of people are now trading cryptocurrency. Now, if that replicated in countries like Egypt, for example, Egypt, is one of the leading countries in the Arab regions for cryptocurrency users. Now, you would have never imagined that as a stat, but why is that the case? Because people are losing faith in the banking systems, in what's going on around the world, and actually their own governments. So cryptocurrency is the next or safest bet. I mean, in Turkey.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe what's happening to Turkish lira. I mean, oh my god. I've been living in Turkey for 8 years now, and I'm originally from Iran. And it's unbelievable. I mean, the first days I remember the US dollar was 3 Turkish lira was equal to 3 Turkish lira, and now it's almost 20. I mean,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
unbelievable.
I mean, for us, I've got to say, Turkey's a beautiful country. Me and my wife, we had a fantastic summer there this year. But I feel so sorry for the Turkish people, because we actually went, weirdly, we went on holiday there. One of our first holidays, we went away. We went to Thailand first. I think we went to Turkey not long after. As a couple, when you're getting to know each other, and we were on a bit of a budget, so we thought Turkey, perfect. We get a great dollar or pound to the lira exchange, absolutely amazing. Yeah. The prices haven't changed one bit in terms of the prices of going out and buying things in the shops or whatever. But what has changed is the exchange rate, which is just crazy.
Yeah,
so the only loser is the people, and then that comes again back to the argument of why I got involved in crypto. Yet again, the people that's affecting the most is the working people. The people that rely on tourism, the people that have got shops, the people that work day to day. They're getting less and less and less, and it's just not simply right. I can give you another example on that as well, actually. While I was in Turkey, I met a firefighter. He's retired. He's actually an English guy. He went over there and he put £100,000 into a Turkish bank 3 years ago. It's now worth £24,000.
Wow.
Crazy.
Oh my. Yeah, I mean, the earlier the people realize that the fiat money is the biggest Ponzi scam, like, I mean, people will understand. You know, people are learning. I mean, they're understanding what's happening in the banking system. They will all know that fiat money is done.
Yeah, I mean, I see that, and I also see both sides. So I think traditional people with like their own core values. So like, I'm going to give you an example. If my grandma wanted to go out to the shops and buy something, she's going to need fiat. She's going to have to use traditional methods and traditional means, because technically and technologically, she's nowhere where she needs to be in terms of going out, using cryptocurrency, even with me as a grandson. So there's definitely going to be a time and a place and the need for traditional fiat payment measures. But for people that have got the ability to go out there and be different, then the more people and the more organizations that accept cryptocurrency as a payment, it's going to be incredible, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we are talking about old people. I mean, this is the beginning of my story. You know, it was like 2018 when my father called me from Iran, and he told me, "Son, there is something named Bitcoin. Do you know what?" And I was like, "Dad, it's not Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin." And he was like, "Whatever. Do you know what is that?" I was like, "No, I just heard that." And you won't believe, the first day I started investigating about Bitcoin, it was the first day, and it was the first day that I purchased my first Bitcoin. I mean,
yeah,
it's unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe how I did that, but I'm happy that I did that in 2000.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much at the moment, but of course. No, you're all good.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's go to the next question. The future price of Bitcoin, the famous question, and when Bitcoin will unbelievable prices, and tell us that unbelievable price in your idea.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm going to break this question down a little bit. I know I talk too much, but I really want to kind of give my thoughts on this. So I think there's going to be really key points when it comes to these price predictions. And number one is around regulation and how that looks, not just in Europe, but across the world. I think adoption rates are going to significantly decrease because of public trust, because of the current situation in the market. Yeah. Now, for me, there's going to be key points. Yesterday was one of those key points. We saw what happened with FTX. Now, their token, FTT, massively crashed. Now, I strongly believe, of course, this isn't financial advice, Solana is then going to follow. And I also believe that USDT is going to depeg and ultimately totally crash as well. That's just my personal opinion. And on the back of that, the exchanges that then back those tokens heavily are then going to crash too as well. And those exchanges, for me, one, for example, is Coinbase. Now, Coinbase is one of the most used exchanges in the world. Now, if that's to crash, the biggest effect, in my opinion, is going to be public perception and loss of trust. Now, with that loss of trust, that's going to massively affect the question that you asked me. So the question that you asked me is the future price of Bitcoin. I think if we weren't in the current situation that we're in now, I think the bottom would have been around 14,300. With the current situation as it stands right now, I'm going sub 10K.
14,000. Okay, dear listeners, did you hear that? 14,000. Get ready.
I think 14,300, but let's see. I think if the key indicator for me is USDT. If USDT performs how I think it may, and this is a may or may not, no, I'm not saying it's 100%. I think if that happens, it's almost good night. We may see Bitcoin as low as $9,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, and what do you think about Bitcoin in 20 years, 10 years, about the future?
Yeah, so I'm really bullish on Bitcoin long term. It's got store of value. It's got huge utility. I think it's a case of the last subjects that we just spoke about: adoption, regulation, and the current situation. I think the current situation right now is going to create million and billionaires. There's going to be people that have got the ability to now buy into Bitcoin at prices that they never ever would have dreamed of. That in even 3, 4, 5 years time are going to be super wealthy because of where it's going to go. And of course, it's not financial advice, but let's just zoom out. The current situation apart. Zoom out of the Bitcoin chart. On average, we go up 172% every single year. There's not one bank in the world paying these returns, which is just crazy. So there's lots of opportunity out there. I think the prices that we will see, I'm going to put my neck on the line within the next 18 to 24 months. I think we'll see 100k Bitcoin very comfortably.
Yeah, I feel the same. Yeah, exactly, 100k. Okay, it's almost 16 minutes that we have been talking together. As the last question, what's your advice for the beginners and for the people who are new into this market?
Okay, so 2 bits of advice. The first bit of advice is remember the reason that you enter the space. Now, what is that reason? So for me, it was to make a little bit of money. It was to better the life of me, my family, and the people around me, and remembering to take that profit off the table. So the biggest mistake people make is they make a little bit of money, they get carried away, they leave it in too long, and then they lose it. Take the money off the table, enjoy it, and keep making those small profits, because 10 small profits make an absolutely great return. Don't be afraid to take that 2 or 3x, take it off the table, enjoy it. The second part of that advice then is listen to as many opinions as possible. You do not need to pay anybody to trade for you. Their signals, any educational courses, all of the resources are available free of charge online. When you're paying people, all you're paying for it is to be organized. Now, some people, that's a huge convenience because you've got a working, busy life or whatever with the family, but you don't need to do that. You can get involved in crypto for literally $10, $15. Go and set yourself up on a major exchange, learn how to trade, be prepared to lose money, and only invest what you can afford to lose.
Wow, that's amazing. That's very nice. Thank you.
No problem. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Wise speech that was very useful, especially for our beginner listeners. Thank you, Mr. Jamie. Thank you so much for joining us today. And to all the listeners, thank you all for your engagement, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Grow Up Podcast.
Thank you so much, and keep up the great work, Sean. You're doing tremendous work. Your content is amazing, so keep it up, mate.
Thank you, Mr. Jamie. Thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too. Bye-bye.